guys, it's Peter, and I'm back. Of course I'm back. Not going anywhere. I'm YouTube famouser now. Famouser. I love that when Miranda Sings says that. Oh, I'm gonna get much more famouser. Do you guys watch Miranda sing? Oh my god. Love it so much. So let me just tell you, it is like 6 a.m., 5:45 a.m. This is the problem of my life. This is my major first world problem of the day, okay? I have a different hat on because I don't know where my pink hat is. I think I left it at Cheesecake Factory. Anyway, people are always like, why do you stay up so late? Why do you stay up so late? Why do you stay up so late? Okay, my body is so weird that, like, I literally only need, like, 7 hours of sleep. And so, like, I mean, I wake up, I'm like, bing, like, right at 7 hours, always, okay? And when I'm up, I am, like, up and ready to go. So, anyway, I went to bed last night. Alex was, like, in bed, and I go, are you going, we went out to dinner last night, and I said, are you going to bed this early? And he goes, yeah, babe, I have to be at work at 8. And I go, well, okay. And it was like 10 o'clock, and I was like, I don't really want to go to bed yet. And he goes, well, what are you going to do? I think I'm just going to lay here for a little bit, and then I'll get up and I'll work on some stuff. And he goes, okay. I'm going to get a towel for underneath my camera, or like a thing to put my camera on, because whenever I watch my videos back, I notice that it rattles and rattles and rattles. So I apologize for that, you guys. It's okay when I'm like on smooth roads, but like on a road like this where I'm curving around and stuff, it's bad. So I'm going to get something to fix it up so it doesn't do that. But anyway, so I went to bed, and I woke up. This is the weirdest thing. I woke up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, because I've been driving around listening to Christmas music. Really, Elvis has been on the radio left and right on Sirius Radio. Hark the Herald Angels Sing by Elvis Presley. Hark the Herald Angels Sing. Anyway, I do love a good Elvis Christmas medley. But I woke up in a total panic and night sweats and night terror, okay? And it's like, if you guys have night terrors, I've had them like my entire life, right? And it's interesting, I've talked to a lot of other people that have epilepsy and have neurological disorders, and a lot of people with neurological disorders, because I also suffer from severe migraines, they also have night sweats and night terrors. And it's interesting because it doesn't happen to me very often. Like, I only it only happens to me like maybe once every 6 months, and typically I know the camera is rattling right now, you guys, I apologize. But it typically only happens to me like once every 6 months, but also around high periods of stress or whatever, and sometimes the holidays. But I woke up in like a total panic, and this is what's really, really interesting about this, okay? Is that I went through this morning and I got a Diet Coke from McDonald's, the best Diet Coke in the world. Anyway, the weird thing is that I have this dream, this nightmare that was a reoccurring nightmare that I used to have back in the day, okay? Now, I don't know if you have reoccurring nightmares or reoccurring dreams, but I have worked with dream symbology. Well, not like, I don't believe that dreams foretell the future, but I am a believer that dreams really mean a lot, okay? And what I really believe that dreams are, because I've worked with a lot of psychiatrists and dream interpretation people on this through the years as far as therapists, okay? What I believe that dreams are is that dreams are a combination of our subconscious working overtime and working on issues subconsciously. Our subconscious working subconsciously? No, but us working on our issues subconsciously while we're asleep, as well as a mixture of things that have happened throughout the week, right? So, like, if you see a billboard in your sleep that says, like, drink milk, like, that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, you need, I don't know that I'm a big believer that you look up milk in one of those dream dictionary books. Like, I don't believe that, okay? Now, I do believe that certain things, like, from a Freudian point of view, like snakes, you know, and all that kind of stuff can, like, mean something, right? Like, for example, it is a fact that if you ever had the dream where you're losing your teeth and you can't, and they're all falling out, like they start one at a time, then another and whatever, and it doesn't hurt, but you're just losing your teeth, that it does mean that is a fear of losing something that's important to you. Or like a lot of kids, when I was working with teenagers, would say that they would have dreams where they were like fighting somebody, but like they could never get the punch all the way through. And a lot of times psychiatrists that we would work with in our clinical staffings would say those are dreams of fighting yourself, or like you're fighting something but you can never reach it, right? And so there's a lot of ways that you look at the literal and the figurative with the wording in your dreams. But reoccurring nightmares and reoccurring dreams are sometimes you working things out in your head. I had a dream tonight that I have not had, and I remember like a lot of my dreams. When I was a little kid, my mom got me a dream journal, and she was like, I want you to write down your dreams because it'll be a way for you to. My mom was real into dreams, which is funny about this story. So I had this reoccurring nightmare when I was a little kid, and I mean, she didn't have me write the dreams down for her. She just had me write them down for me. Like, I had this really cool like dream journal and stuff. My mom loved all that. But anyway, I had this reoccurring nightmare when I was, okay, preface this by saying that my mother was a severe alcoholic when I was growing up. And it's really a topic that's hard for me to talk about sometimes in life, not just on camera, but I think it's an important topic for me to talk about on camera. My mom was a really good mom, and I'm not throwing something out there and taking it back, but she was. I mean, dinner on the dinner table every night. She played games with me. When I was a little kid, she always read to me at night. I mean, my mother was such just a symbol of soul in my life, but she battled from alcoholism her entire life. Okay, well, hold on, let me get to that. And I was very much the child of an alcoholic, and it was difficult because I think if you grow up as a child of an alcoholic, no matter how severe and abusive your home was, which my home was not abusive, physically or emotionally, but I was afraid a lot, okay? Because my mom would drink and then she would become a different person, and she was never mean, but she would be gone, like zombie-ish, and she was a blackout drinker, and so, you know, I didn't, like, I can remember as a little kid, like, calling my mom from my dad's house when she had been drinking, and, like, her, like, moaning or being very unconscious on the phone, and I was always scared for my mom. Not of her, for her. And, you know, that's a lot to put on a child. And what's really cool is that my mom got sober 6 months after I did. And I would love to tell you that she got sober because of me. She didn't. You know, when I got sober, I was told that you can't hang out with the same people and go to the same places that I did before. And I told my mom, I said, you're one of the people I can't be around if you're going to continue to drink. And she was like, Shirley, you can't mean that. And don't call me Shirley. And I said, no, I mean that. Like, you're a big trigger for me. And so I didn't see my mom for 6 months until my cousin's wedding that June. My mom's sobriety birthday was June 2nd, and she got sober because my uncle had triple bypass surgery and had a massive heart attack. And what she realized was, and my mom was never somebody that would like go, and not that there's anything wrong with this or anything different, because it's just different kinds of drinkers, but my mom was never somebody that would go and sit at a bar till 4 o'clock in the morning. She did not bring men into our home. You know, my mom was a very sad, depressed alcoholic that would drink bottles of wine or martinis for 2 in the cans, but like 6 of them. And she would sit in her bedroom and smoke cigarettes and watch a movie late at night. And that was her drinking, and it was very sad. She lived a very depressed life until then. When my uncle had a heart attack, she decided that no matter if she lived 1 more year or she lived 20 more years, that she wanted to live a sober life because she wanted to live her life best quality that she could. And so I was almost 23 at that point. So from 23 until 36, when my mom passed away, we lived a sober life together, which was amazing. You know, to be able to have a family member that you can talk about recovery with and to talk about drinking, and you just get each other on that level. And we had a relationship like nobody's business. And my mom, you know, I was able to apologize to her for my behaviors of the past, and my mom was able to apologize to me for her behaviors. It was something that she really struggled with, that she had not been the mother that she wanted to be her whole life from the drinking. And so it was amazing to be able to have that reconciliation through sobriety, and I'm so grateful for it. There was nothing ever left unsaid between my mom and I, and that's the one thing I feel so wonderful about in her passing, was that there were no words that were ever unsaid. My mother knew I loved her, I know she loved me, and we had made up for all of that. But when I was a child, I was very, very scared of all of that, and I had a reoccurring nightmare that we lived on a cul-de-sac when I was growing up, and our house was set back in the woods. I mean, these huge bay windows, and I had this reoccurring nightmare that I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I knew somebody was trying to come and get us, but I didn't know who they were, and they were typically going to be driving down our street, and I was always trying to get my mom into the car, and, you know, I would either get her into the car or I couldn't get her into the car. And a couple times if I got her into the car, I would be like 8 or 9. And my nightmares today are still very similar to this, where I'm like 8 or 9 trying to drive this car down the street and I don't know what I'm doing. And my mom's moaning and she's like, typically in my nightmare, what happens is I get out of the house and I run across the street for help, and me and the other kids are huddled down looking across the street at our house, and our blinds are closed, but I can see my mom being attacked by somebody in our house, okay? And I can see her being like stabbed and attacked in our house. This was a horrific nightmare that I had all of my life growing up. It stopped when my mom got sober, okay? I never had that nightmare again. I swear, okay? Hand to God, never happened again. And I know now that what that was a fear of my mom's drinking and of what would happen to her. And tonight I had that nightmare. Like I had that same nightmare, and in my nightmare I was like, and I don't know, like, I'm really missing my mom this week a lot, you know, because it's Christmas, and it's weird. Like, holidays don't really bring it up for me a lot with my mom, but for some reason this year, and kind of a lot of what I've gone through recently in my life, I thought a lot about, like, Pierre, how would your mom, like, what would she say? How would you want her response? So I've been, like, she's been on my mind a lot, and, like, I don't know if that's what triggered the nightmare or whatever, but, like, I had the nightmare tonight where I was trying to get her into the garage, and, you know, I was this little kid. I was like 9 years old in the dream, and I was running across the street, and I woke up to that. And so it was so interesting that I was thinking about that. And so anyway, I woke up, and then I couldn't go back to sleep. Like, my mind was just fucked at that point. So I got in my car, and I started driving around, and I was listening to Christmas music, and I saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus came on by the Carpenters. Talk about a depressing act, those two. But anyway, I do love their music. Did you guys ever watch the Karen Carpenter true story on Lifetime? Ah! She breaks my heart. Anyway. So, I was listening to that song, and I was thinking about how I found out there was no Santa Claus. Okay, so you guys get the tissues out, because this is a sad story. So, you know, it's so funny to me when I sit with people and they're always like, oh, my sister told me when I was 10, or the kids at school were talking about it, and I'm always like, oh, you know, I know this is rattling, you guys, I'm sorry, I'm going a lot of bumps, and I'm like, oh, that's funny, and whatever, and for me, it's really kind of a tragic story. I was about 7 or 8 when I found out that there was no Santa Claus, and the way that I found out was that the house that I grew up in, there were, like, our rooms were, like, we had a long hallway, and my room was at the very end, and, like, from my bed, I looked down the hallway, okay? And we had this closet, like, halfway, and the closet, like, had this, like, attic, it had, like, this hiding space in it, and that was where my mom hid the Christmas presents for me from Santa, right? And her bedroom was right across from it. We used to always have Christmas Eve at our house and Christmas Day at my aunt's house, and I didn't know that, and the reason I didn't know that was, well, there's another story that happened when my mom, actually this was that Christmas, so we were coming home from that, yeah, it was that Christmas, we were coming home from my aunt's house, and there was ice out, and my mom put the car in the ditch with my grandmother and I, and we actually had to hitchhike home, and this couple picked us up, and I remember my grandma yelling at my mom, going, you know, like, oh, well, you need to do this, and did you call the police? And my mother was like, mother, drunk, right? Because my mom was drunk, that's why she put us in the ditch. So after that, we never had Christmas Eve at my aunt's house, we always had it at our house. But anyway, so my grandma went to bed, and I'm in bed, and, you know, my mom came to me and drunk, read me, you know, the night before Christmas, and I can remember the smell of Chanel No. 5 and wine, and I hate those two smells to this day, okay? So funny, Charles and I were just talking about this the other day. I really hate the smell of Chanel No. 5. I mean, it's a classic scent, but I hate it, okay? It reminds me of my mother, drunk when I was growing up as a kid. Do you guys have memories like that of smells? Like Chanel No. 5 and wine. I hate white wine. I hate the smell of white wine. I can't stand it. So anyway, but I was laying there, and my grandma went to bed after my grandma and my mom fought forever. And my mom, I see her, like, she's coming into the bed, in and out of the bedroom. My mom used to stay up really late at night, and she would watch the Christmas services at the Vatican and the Gregorian chants and all that stuff. She loved Gregorian chants. So anyway, I'm trying to change lanes here, as I'm in a school lane. And so anyway, she was watching all that, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, she put me to sleep, and she thought I was asleep. It was like an hour or 2 hours later, and I still couldn't sleep because, of course, I'm thinking about Santa Claus and when Santa Claus is gonna come. And I remember that was the first year that I didn't put out cookies, and that I didn't put out celery for the deer and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was just a fucking mess, right? Because of my mom's drinking. This would break her heart if she knew that I was telling this story, because, like, my mother tried so hard to be a good parent, you know? And I think that's really the muting that alcohol does to people, is it really stops you from being the parent or the person that you want to be. So anyway, all of a sudden I see my mom like come out, and she's like weaving, and she's like going into this closet, and she's breaking out all of these presents, and she's down the stairs and up the stairs weaving with these presents and a glass of wine. And all of a sudden I was like, my mom, like, I remember thinking, where's she putting those presents? And so after she went to bed, I snuck downstairs, and it was all the presents that she had put in there from Santa Claus. And I remember thinking to my mom is Santa Claus? Like, and I think on top of that, her like drinking like all of it, it just was like this really ugly thing. And I never told my mom that, you know, like all of our life, I never told her that that's how I found out there was no Santa Claus. And, you know, years later, she would play it up like, oh, Santa Claus this, and we put the cookies out, and I would act like that's cute, and we never discussed it. And I think that's part of living in an alcoholic home, is all the secrets. You don't discuss those things. You don't ever have to be taught that you don't discuss those things. You just don't talk about those things. You just don't discuss them. There's an undercurrent and a message in alcoholic and addict families. We don't talk about anything, okay? And it's not a rule because somebody's going to get in trouble, although that does happen in a lot of homes. It's just you don't talk about those things. And what I know is, if you guys want to hear some really horrific stories that happened in my life, that's not even nearly in the top 500, okay? Not nearly, as far as living in an alcoholic home. But that's probably one of the most profound, because it probably affected my childhood the most. And I love my mother, you know, and one of the most awesome things was on, and I said this in my video yesterday, was that in the video, or in the night before she passed away, I went to her hospital room, and I told her, I said, you were a really good mom, you know, and thank you for everything you did, and I forgive you for everything that you did. And I think, you know, she just tried her best. And I'm so thankful that she got sober. And so for anybody out there that has a substance abuse problem, or has parents that family members have substance abuse problems, please don't ever give up. I was the kid that thought my mom will never get sober, and she did. And we had an amazing life as it. And 13 Christmases that were absolutely incredible. Because of Smoky Mountain Christmas by Dolly Parton, I'm going to link that movie below. It's my all-time favorite Christmas movie. We used to go, the last 5 years of my mom's life, we rented a cabin in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and like had Christmas in a cabin up in the hills. It was amazing. And I have a great story that I'm telling later this week on Christmas Eve on here, because I'm gonna do all kind of Christmas stories this week maybe. But we ended up having the most amazing Christmases that you would never imagine in your entire life, because of our sobriety together. And so, you know, had she not gone through all of that, we wouldn't have ended up having those amazing Christmases. And so I'm thankful for it in retrospect. But at the time, it's painful to live as a child. So anyway, that's where I'm at. Now I'm wide awake, and my hair appointment's at 10 and it's 6, so I got 4 hours. And I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.